Hello, my name is Sakata Poole, and this is my essay on why high schoolers should be able to vote once they enter high school. You have turned 18 this year, and just in time. There is an up-and-coming election, and you are ready and able to vote, but with what experience? You are new to the voting world and having your voice heard, and find that intimidating. Maybe if we were to give young people more of a head start when it came to voting, this could help us solve the problem. I myself think students should be able to vote once they enter high school, but I also think there should be a few guidelines to prepare students with the difficult and mature decision that comes along with deciding who should run our country. I think it should be mandatory for students to take and pass a civics and careers course before they are allowed to vote. I think this will give young people a better understanding of politics and help them succeed in making a decision and getting their voice heard. I also think it would definitely be a positive thing to let high school students vote. I think it can teach them valuable life experience and to help prepare them for the outside world of school. Lastly, I think the idea of voting also comes with many responsibilities. You now have the ability to have your voice heard in politics and to be able to make a decision of who you want to run your country. If you gave students the opportunity to vote, I think many of them would take the chance to have a say in what goes on in the government. In my grade 10 year, I took a civics and career course, and this taught me about the different types of government and what their responsibilities are and who led them, etc. Going into the course, I had very little idea of how the government worked. Of course, I knew who Stephen Harper was, our prime minister at the time, but when it came down to voting and what pros and cons each candidate held, I would have an extremely hard time trying to figure out who I would have voted for if given the opportunity because of my lack of experience and knowledge. So I think that if we were able to allow high school students to vote, I think this course should be mandatory. This gives us an understanding of what we are getting into. I also think it gives us good experience with government and why it's so important to just about everybody. I also think that many high schoolers love the idea of making a difference, but don't like the work towards it. But I think if students are given the opportunity to vote, it would allow students to make a difference in their community how they see fit. And it allows people to get their voice heard and to say in who is running the country. I think the life experience students would gain from voting would be amazing. Students would be twice as prepared when it came to voting outside of school. Students would have the guidance with figuring out who they'd like to vote for, but making sure that there is no bias, as that wouldn't be fair. I also think that the earlier on we let people vote and keep young people educated, this would make for a better education in general and the leaders in our future. And being very well educated plays a big role in our success as a country, I would think. Being able to vote would also help students feel as though they are part of the community and having a voice, giving high schoolers the chance to make important decisions. Voting is a pretty big deal. It gives you the power to decide who you'd want the entire country to have as a leader. And in my opinion, I think having the ability to make an effort on that is a lot of responsibility. I think that if students are allowed to vote, this would give them a great sense of responsibility and making them feel as though they are important, which we definitely are. Given these opportunities, I think students will start looking more into the future and maybe asking themselves, how will this affect me and my community and even the world? Having this type of mindset and developing these kind of ideas throughout voting is something that I feel is very important and can be extremely beneficial in our future in our government. But like most situations where people are given the choice, you will always have people who will decide not to do something or maybe don't feel that they are ready to make the decision. But I think giving students the choice of whether they'd like to vote is very important, regardless of whether or not they like to take the opportunity to, because hey, maybe one day they will, and hopefully they will be ready to make the important, educated decision. In conclusion, I think students should be able to vote when they enter high school. I think this because we are taught politics throughout civics and career courses. We will have an even better understanding of how the government system works, and who we think is fit to be the next leader of our country. It also gives high school students valuable life experience that they will definitely take with them into the world outside of school. Even if you don't decide to vote, that does not mean you wouldn't be able to have the knowledge and experience to help you make that decision in the future. And lastly, I think it teaches students responsibility in being able to be heard and have a voice in their country's government. And the sense of responsibility to decide and form an opinion really goes a long way. So with all of these reasons, why shouldn't students be allowed to vote?